people who look at the X-rayed baggage in airports. What's the most disturbing thing you have found? Finding adult toys was always a bit yuck, especially if nasty. Owners varied from young adults to old folks. I don't care what consenting adults do. I still don't like handling their toys. Had a bleeding deer head once. Was not allowed into the X-ray. Nothing like having your gloves start melting while searching a bag. Found vials of DNA stripper in a bag once. Nice big warnings. Do not inhale. Do not get on skin. Will cause cancer. May cause death. Airline loved having to find a disposal company that would come get that stuff. Rotten meat on occasion. I read it as stripper DNA and got hella confused as to why some blood from a stripper would cause cancer. Like dang. That's one heck of an STD. Didn't even need an X-ray. It was in plain sight. Working a baggage pier in the sorter. Co-worker drops off an odd-sized item. Looked like a regular folding table at first in one of our clear plastic bags. Co-worker tells me it is an S&M table. Being the new guy, I thought he was messing with me, but then I looked closer. It was a folding table, but on one side was a T-shaped item labeled the jackhammer down the side. On the other side of the table were some silver handcuffs. So it was an S&M table. Was going to Ohio. I worked in left luggage loss property in an airport and we found some weird things. We had to take all the bags over to be scanned if they were found or handed in to us. People had a month to call us or collect, or it was donated to charity or disposed of. Here's some I can remember. Samurai swords, a backpack full of live crabs, a suitcase filled entirely of empty Monster Energy cans. I'm talking maybe 30 cans. A bag of reborn baby dolls, a lot of moldy food, a lot of large knives, weird looking sex toys, people's ashes. Like, how do you carry the ashes of your loved one and leave the bag in the airport? I used to love the days where we got to sort through out of date stuff because we'd see who found the weirdest thing. Sometimes you would come across a bag that just didn't make sense, that had like a towel, underwear, and then completely random items that you wouldn't travel with. The crap people try and get on a plane with is absolutely crazy. We had a lot of campers and explorers who tried to use that as an excuse to take their machetes on board with them. Edit. I just remembered that we once had a mummified cat found in an abandoned suitcase. Not the airport, but coming onto a military base overseas, was running the X-ray machine at the walk-in gate. Seen a very tiny chick come in wearing a grossly oversized backpack, and she had an odd expression on her face like she was uncomfortable. So, naturally I chose her as my random bag check for the group. Ran the bag through the X-ray machine, and let me tell you, she had this giant backpack stuffed as tightly as she could with what only looked like nothing but huge dildos. I never seen a woman turn as red and as fast as this woman did. She had an odd expression on her face like she was uncomfortable. Maybe they couldn't all fit in the backpack. Lots of loaded firearms. Weapons, really. You'll be amazed at how many people try to fly with guns and use the excuse I didn't know I had one in my bag. Tasers, batons, switchblades, you name it. Runner-up 3 sculpted rubber vaginas, lower torsos with the liquid still on them, in Ziploc bags. The guy was bringing his girlfriends to Hawaii, I guess, and didn't feel like cleaning them. Third place is a bag full of cockroaches skittering among regular clothes with crumbs everywhere. The guy kept them as pets. Place the third guy with the first place winners because there ain't enough firepower on all of the combined airports of the world to subdue a man keeping cockroaches as pets in a bag that he travels with. I make my own soap and like to take it with me on vacations because I generally don't like hotel soap. However, it is a problem when I fly. My homemade soap has gotten flagged by the chemical sensors in SAR checkpoints 3 times, and they always have to tear my bag apart as a rest. It's just a basic fat and lye soap, some fragrance added. But on 3 separate occasions now their machines have flagged it as a freaking bomb. When they open it up to find a block of handmade soap, the officers inevitably look at me weird while I explain that I'm just a dude who likes to make his own lavender and lemongrass scented soap. Alright, Tyler Durden. Not really weird, but a guy came through with legit gold bars. He was Asian and mentioned they had been in his family for a very long time. They were completely black on the X-ray, and he asked for a private screening. I was the one who checked out the bag. I don't remember how much they were, but it was kinda cool since I'd never seen real solid gold bars before. In the 4 years I was TSAR, I never once found a gun. I probably wasn't a very good agent. On border patrol someone had like cured snakes in juice in mason jars. They made it weird and gross enough so officers wouldn't further inspect. Turns out there was lots of H stuffed in them. Best show. My mother was flying to visit my sister in another state. Tsar took my mom's bag out of the X-ray machine. He was shaking as he opened my mother's bag. I thought he was going to pass out. The agent asked her if she knew there were chopped up baby parts in her luggage. My mother smiled sweetly and said yes. Why do you ask? An alarm must have been set off because there were now a dozen airport police surrounding her and looking at the fleshy limbs. At the time, she was making life-sized, anatomically correct baby dolls. My sister was going to help her assemble them. Tsar was not amused. Hi, an emotional apology and thanks to that Tsar agent that didn't frick me up when I accidentally tried boarding a plane with 3 gift-wrapped hunting knives and a can of mace. They were Christmas gifts and I forgot to clean out my backpack while rushing to pack. I couldn't understand why you kept scanning my bag. You are us and thank you. In BC here, a guy went hunting, decided to kill a mountain lion, dismembered it, stuffed it in 2 coolers. One cooler had the head that he brought on for carry-on, where I was, and he checked the body under the plane. At first, I had no idea what it was when it showed up on screen. It honestly looked like a turkey, but nope. I was about to send it for a search when the guy leaned over and told me what it was. No ice, wasn't frozen, just the head decomposing. Apparently it's good meat according to him. It was cool and disturbing at the same time. I could see the brain, its eyes, its bones. It was, yay. Not so much disturbing, but entertaining. I was coming back from a trip to China. I had purchased an amethyst geode, a big one, like 80 pounds. I couldn't say no to the price. I teach geosciences, so it was both pretty and useful. I didn't trust it to be shipped or checked, so it was my carry-on, in a piece of luggage purchased just for it. It went through scanning. The agent running the machine laughed nervously and turned the screen so I could see it. It looked like a mortar shell, like a big, bullet-shaped artillery projectile. Before opening my bag, she asked me if I wanted to say anything. I explained. We chuckled, and she confiscated the duct tape I had used to reinforce the bag and sent me on my merry way. Takes away duct tape but not the 35-kilogram head smasher inner. Rules make no sense. I was traveling through Japan and for some reason I had a lot of pennies in my bag. Like they had been breeding in there and the Fed blamed me for the national shortage. The X-ray guy was concerned I might be hiding something with all these pennies so they started pulling them out and counting them. Finally I started to help. Can't remember what it came out to, but they were definitely weirded out. At least they didn't find the cash in my waistband. I read this as a lot of penises in my bag. I saw the guy try to get to handgun no security. I saw that Tsar agent operating the machine mash the big red button on top of the machine and wave over some other Tsar agents. I wanted to stick around and watch but had a flight to catch. All I know is that dude did not make his flight that day. I am a doll artist and have flown with dolls before in my carry-on. I get pulled over every single time so that Tsar can search my bag and I've seen what it looks like going through the scanner. Looks like a real baby. Those things are creepy as heck on the X-ray. I'll speak on behalf of my screener. My bag got dug through at Tsar. This was not in secondary screening. It was in full view of all passengers waiting for their bags and shoes to roll out of the machine. Screener had pulled out one of 2 adult-sized diapers covered with cute nursery prints. I'll never forget the look on her face as the gears in her head turned to try and process what in the heck she was looking at. She unfolded it in full view of every passenger, and then folded it back up and put it in my bag, sending me away. The lady next to me looked really surprised too. She had nothing to watch but the screener digging through my bag while she waited for her crap being scanned. What a crap show that was. Adult sizes diapers. Poor person, can't help that. Cute nursery print. Oh, you are a brave soul to share and laugh about it later. I was watching bags go through once, as a passenger on the other side, and I saw a handgun. Literally a Colt 45 1911. The agent clicked on it and it disappeared. They put random items in there to make sure they're actually paying attention. The machines have the alert tests, but sometimes they put real weapons though, as the former doesn't test the x-ray. The security guys thought the package of salami looked weird under the x-ray. I thought it was weird having to eat x-rayed salami after that. I went to Hawaii when I was about 12. I brought a circular chocolate candy in my luggage before boarding. After the guy looked at the image, he pulled someone else over and started talking. They asked if I brought any native fruits in my luggage. I said it was a candy. They asked what kind. With great shame, I explained I brought donkey balls. Once the screener got really confused by my oil rig, small bong, and pulled it out and showed his supervisor, who just laughed. That was the one time I hadn't had time to clean it before flying. Fortunately it was in Oakland, but still a scary moment. Not a security guy, but I was in a school trip to Iceland earlier this year, and just before the flight back I caught a glimpse of the x-ray for my friend's rucksack and saw 15 bananas in there. They be craving that potassium. Not exactly the question you asked, but funny nonetheless. I was flying from Albany, NY to Tennessee, and I always have knives and whatever on me, and Allentowns I simply forget I have them. So when they went to search my pocketbook BC, their radar went off. I was thinking, oh whoops, I forgot a knife. The guys is searching like he's looking for a grain of sand, and I'm suddenly panicking, wondering if maybe I have something illegal, lol. Turns out I had one of those credit card knives. It's like a metal credit card shaped thing with a knifed edge. I said kudos for finding that, man. It was buried in my wallet and I totally forgot about it, no prob. Just got rid of it. The kicker is this. I'm on the plane and I go in my pocketbook to get something, and my 4 inches pocket knife is sitting right there. I was scared out of my mind that I'd get arrested. The whole time I'm scared of jail, while simultaneously wondering how he found my credit card knife deep in my wallet but missed the clear as day pocket knife. I kept my pocketbook closed rest of the flight, lol. Similarly, I went to a courthouse and they said to empty pocketbook of anything weird could be harmful. Being the weirdo prepper that I am, began loading pepper spray, knife, mini vodka bottles. When the security guy laughed at me, I told him not to come crying to me when the zombie apocalypse happens. Used to work freight in the UK and one night shift, dull as balls. I look up and there's a leg, clear as day. So I joke around with the other guy as this battered old box comes through. Then, couple of parcels later, there's another one. Then came an arm. Straight on the phone to the supervisor, just in case. Film props made of ballistic gels and other fleshy guff, hence the reason it came up organic. But damned if I wasn't 50% of the way to thinking we were about to uncover the crime of the year. But yeah, we'd regularly get boxes with, like, 200 plus dildos in, and you can spot them straight away on the machine. That's our Instagram page, shows all sorts of cool stuff they find, usually disguised as something fine, or extra not fine, to bring on a plane. So had to look through my bag last week leaving Orlando. I had a cement baby face planter thing. I believe the maker casted a doll head in cement to make it. On the x-ray it was perfectly in profile. A dark purple profile of a baby face. The color I'm guessing was because of the material. I was honestly laughing as the agent searched my bag for the item in question. They let me keep it. I work at a smaller airport but have been doing it for years, and there are a few weird things I've seen. The third weirdest I've seen is, one time a dense organic came up on the x-ray, and when we went and checked it, it turned out to be a dragon's penis dildo, and it was a guy traveler. Things got awkward quickly. The second weirdest thing I've seen is, one time an image came up of a human head and right arm of a human as well. The person on load position forgot to mention that human remains were coming through, and while we would stop that normally, this was for biological research. The kicker was that the brain was still in the head. The weirdest thing I've seen, bar none, was one time that a relatively young lady came through with a baby, and in her purse, her only carry-on, she had an oversized liquid with a big orange lump attached. Dense organic is dark orange, and we thought it was for the baby, maybe food and wipes most likely, and it turned out that she only had these 2 items for a 6-hour flight, and they turned out to be a bottle of vodka and a Bible. That was all she had for her and the baby, nothing else. No gum, no wallet, no lip chap, no keys, no change even, nothing. Those were 3 weird items. Not even a pack of diapers for 6 hours. Poor kid had to sit in its poop all flight and poor passengers had to smell it. Not a security agent, however. My mom's friend's husband was going on a fishing trip with some friends. On the way out he realized he needed a cooler for the fish. Grabbed the first one he found in the garage and continued to the airport. When he was in the line for security, he realized his wife had taken a 12-inch knife in the cooler the day before for watermelon, but had not removed it. Got through security okay after they confiscated the knife. When he returned and told the incident to his wife, she said, "There goes my good knife." I don't work at an airport, but when I was little I noticed the screen when someone's bag went through and asked the lady working, "What's that?" They made the person empty their case while we were doing ours and found a dead rat in their underwear. Obligatory, not me at airport but former courthouse co-worker. Repeat customer comes in, big old dildo in the bag. Co-worker asked what she was doing with it. She said, "Come on, you know how boring court can get." She came back for her next appearance. Son dildo. He asked where her little friend was. Without missing a beat she said, "Why, see that bottle of pert in there? Works real good in a pinch." I had my training butterfly knife taken and given back to me at the international airport in Hawaii. It was really dull, so it was all good. One time I glanced over and saw the outline of 4 guns and a bomb-shaped object on the x-ray. The second it went through, the man took off running. This was 4 years ago, and nobody from that trip besides me noticed. I got on a flight without them noticing pepper spray in my purse. Small container. They did on the way home take away my new unopened tube of toothpaste. Makes me wonder sometimes what really may be in someone's carry-on. Not me, but on a similar thread a while back a redditor claimed that this guy had a human skull in his carry-on. Supposedly he was a university medical professor and had all of the documents and paperwork on him to back this up. Kinda surreal to think about. Not airport security, but I feel like this story kind of fits. Back in my misspent youth, like 20 years ago, I had some questionable friends. One, Vinny, was a crazy punk rock junkie. He had a court date for some small charge. He was forever missing court, getting a warrant, going to jail, so a few of us volunteered to escort Vinny to court. We asked him a dozen times, "You don't have anything illegal on you, right?" He said, "Of course not." We get to the courthouse, line up for the metal detectors, Vinny in front. He gets to where you empty your pockets into the trays, you know, change, keys, etc. Vinny proceeds to pull handfuls of dirty syringes out of his pockets and put them in the tray like they were house keys. We just had time to see the horrified look on the guard's face before we ran out and ditched Vinny. He spent a month in jail for that. He committed suicide by cop a few years back. R.I.P. Vinny, you were one of a kind. Rest in peace Vinny, you rascal. I don't x-ray baggage, but I do go through lost luggage. They end up at thrift stores if they are never claimed. Haven't found anything super disturbing yet. Just used sex toys, used jockey cream, some horrifyingly stinky clothing that someone jizzed in and forgot about. The other month, I came home from Hawaii with like 30 sample-sized jars of guava jelly in my suitcase. It was searched, and whoever went through it was probably confused as heck. Flew out of Sacramento after a weekend of goose duck hunting. Left one shotgun shell in the crease of my carry-on blind bag. Once I passed through the x-ray and didn't see my bag, I knew I goofed up. Long story short, I got patted down. A sheriff deputy took the shell, and my bag tested positive for gun residue. Tsar was all cool and said it happens all the time with SoCal hunters flying back down. A freeze-dried cat in this weird makeshift casket thing. Boss said just cause it's weird you can't just go getting all frantic and crap, chill out. I have a funny story related to the subject. A few years ago my friends were flying to go skiing, and this was in Russia where all baggage gets checked right at the entrance to the airport. So back then the vaping thing was quite new and not many people knew what it was. One of the girls had packed her vape, that's what it's called, right, in the luggage, and it supposedly looked like a grenade to the person looking at the x-rays. Of course my friends didn't know this then, so they saw following picture. As they go through the metal detectors, the woman looking at the screen stops the line, picks up her radio and says something along the lines of code 6. Entrance 3. Within seconds the place was swarming with heavily armed police, who stopped everyone and opened up the bags. They just stood there holding the vape, having absolutely no clue what it was, lol. They then made the girl use it to prove it's not a weapon, and luckily it all ended well and they were let through after a few minutes. The SAR agent screening my best friend's bag got a weird look on his face when it went through, stopped it, went back, laughed, sent her bag on its way. I kept looking at her afterward because I had no idea what it could be that she'd just brought with her on our trip. Then we remembered we'd each brought these toy pigs that snort when you squeeze them, and I guess seeing the second pig was just the last straw for that guy. Not a security screener, but I used to be a geological survey pilot. Normally, since we're a small aircraft and don't carry passengers, we use a general aviation part of airports that don't require going through security. But we were doing a job in Ireland, and apparently they don't have much general aviation there and weren't sure what to do with us. So every time we went out to the plane, we had to go through security, run our bags through x-ray, take our shoes off, etc. Just like a regular passenger. Now the airplane has a crash X, which is usually carried on board, but we had removed it for reasons I can't recall and kept it with all our gear in our rental car. However, it needed to go back into the plane. So I show up, stand in line at security, holding my axe. I get to the front and I'm like, I need to take this to my plane. The look on Screener's face was priceless. I have to call my supervisor. So she calls her supervisor, and I can hear her on the phone. There's a guy that wants to take an axe through security. Long story short, I have a picture of an axe on the belt going through the x-ray. Did they think there was an even deadlier weapon inside the axe? And they had to escort us out to the plane with our axe? My uncle works the Super Bowl every year. Last year he had gunpowder residue on him from the show. He had props in his bag, which resulted in a dog coming up to us and sitting promptly in front of him, followed by SAR and security. He had food stuffed in his bag from the Super Bowl, which was obviously discarded, along with some other random things that I genuinely wonder why he had. Maybe not disturbing, but still sort of strange. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.